allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First of all, thank you all for coming tonight. Is there anyone recording this meeting?
No. Try to do a curveball sometimes.
Okay, that's good. All right, the first item on the agenda, also before I get started, we have a tax classification hearing at 7 p.m. So if we're in the middle of something at that point, we'll just stop, do the tax, it shouldn't take long, and then pick up wherever we leave off. The first item is to approve the minutes of November 25th, 2013.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of November 25th, 2013.
I second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody, any problems with the minutes? Hearing none, seeing none. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And yes. Motion carries. The second item on the agenda is, excuse me, the building inspector, Larry Brandt. On November 18th, we, after the override had passed, part of the override dollar amount was to restore the hours to the employees that had lost hours. And we also voted the hours, how to get those hours, the days to open the offices, whether to go back to 5 or 4 days. We voted to do 4 days. We voted to do one long day. It was determined, excuse me, that to help serve the people, because it's tough, especially if you work east, even probably west, but more so east. It's almost impossible to get back here at 3 o'clock to pay your taxes. Somebody work, even if you work for the town, to come over and take care of retirement. You need to get to the assessors. You need, to come to the Board of Selectmen's office for permits or paperwork or questions or anything. So the board voted to have one late night, and that was Tuesday. And the board voted to restore the hours to the building inspector back to the 25, and we voted on the hours that the building inspector's office, the building inspector would be there, because his assistant does 30 hours and he does 25. After that vote and after the notice went out, Larry contacted me and we talked a couple things. So on my own, I asked the coordinator to temporarily change the order, to stop those hours that we voted on the 18th, to give Larry a chance to come before the board and discuss this. As I said, we talked mainly because I'm the person that's available. Everyone else here has a job, and not able to meet with him in the morning. So I met with him and we talked about it, and I gave him that couple-week leeway so he could come before the entire board and make his case. And so he's here tonight, and that's why he's on the agenda.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the board seeing me tonight. The hours that were changed, first of all, the 5 hours that was given back to the building inspector was brought up early in 2013 with Mr. Ritter and Will. I had advised them that with the loss of those 5 hours, I had to find the income to replace them, which another town was willing to cover those hours. And basically, I work 8 hours on a Friday now, when I normally was only working in the mornings for Templeton. That was not my choice, but it was put on me because of the loss of income from the town. So I made the town aware of that almost a year before this happened, that I couldn't be available on Fridays anymore. The hours that have been put together, the Tuesday that the board voted on them, I work nights at a third town. I've been doing these 3 jobs for the past 13 years. This is the first time in those 13 years that there's been a conflict with the hours that are being required and the hours that I work. So after talking to Jeff, the indication was that the hours that have been voted will be the hours that you work, and that's it. So basically, I advised him that I wanted to see the board regarding this, regarding my resignation to the position, because I cannot fulfill those hours. I will not be able to fulfill those hours. The only hours that I can work is what I'm currently working. Now, as far as covering at night, now that Donna is here, there is office hours in the early evening that one evening. Lastly, I'm also part of a contract in one of the towns that I work, so even if I wanted to change the hours, I could not change the hours that I have until my contract comes up July 1st of 2014. That's the only time I'd be available to discuss it with that town, changing the hours so I could accommodate these hours. So that being said, I realize the board has done an awful lot of work to get to this position. What worries me a little bit is even with these change of hours, whether they'll follow through into next year or not. Because I do realize the board had to put an override in front of the town to even be able to pay these hours. So what I'd like to work out with the town, if I can, is July 1st, 2014 is the first time that I'll be able to move forward. And I'd like to stay here working these hours. I haven't had a problem in the 13 years that I've been here. This is the first time. That being said, that's why I'm here. I'm here to discuss it, to see if the full board is adamant about it, and if they are adamant, I will make an agreement regarding my resignation with you, because I do understand you want to get these hours in place. Any questions?
I've got a
Yes.
couple. In your opinion, do you think the building inspector could be less hours? I mean, could it go back to the 20 and still be able to adequately, serve the town, or does it really need to be at the 25?
Well, the adjustment from the 25 to the 20, I was very concerned about, especially just closing on Fridays. It's worked out fairly well. I had to come in a little bit earlier than I wanted to, but the majority of the people that I work with are contractors. We do have homeowners, yes, coming in, and we do make special arrangements if they need those special arrangements, such as doing inspections at 6:30 in the morning, if they need that before they go to work. Most homeowners have been able to accommodate themselves. I haven't had any building permits not being issued because of the hours. I haven't missed any inspections because of those hours. So, to answer your question, we've adjusted to the hours that we had to adjust to, not knowing where the town was going to go. I've been able to keep up with the work. We do have several projects that have come into the town, Dunkin' Donuts being one. We're looking at a solar field right now. We also have the senior center that's in the middle of working, and several other projects that have come into plan review and gone to permitting stage. And those projects are the type of projects that are long-term. They're not going to get done in a month. They're going to take a year. Some of them are going to take 2 years. I think that at this particular point, we've been able to handle those. So to answer your question, I think that 20 hours is fine right now. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't change that.
Second question, come July 2014, considering the other towns that you work, do you think your schedule could be arranged such that you could have one late night in Templeton?
It's a possibility. I will be honest with the board, I'm talking to one town for a full-time position right now, because that town has grown so rapidly and so tremendously with large projects. They have 3 large commercial projects coming, and in some of those projects are large buildings, 88,000 square feet, 68,000 square feet. They're taking a tremendous amount of time between the plan review, and each building is taking 2 years to 3 years to complete. I was in front of the board last week, I explained the situation here. Because of the contract, I can't change anything until July 1st. Come July 1st, if they say, well, we're not gonna go full-time, then that would be a different story. They did not make a commitment. What they did say is it would have to depend on the budgeting come January 1st.
Is this town one of the other 2 towns that you
Yes.
currently work for?
Yes, yes. And I've also applied at another town to cover my Fridays in case this doesn't work tonight. The city of Air is looking for a part-time inspector. I sent my resume in there. I got an email today from the building department looking to come in and meet the town administrator. So I'm just trying to cover myself here to make sure that if I give my resignation and I lose these hours, I can still afford what I've got between my family, my house, and the bills that I have. I have to protect myself.
Then one last question. When, for the hours that you're on Templeton time and you're not in the office, is there a log of what inspections you're doing or where they are, that type of thing?
Absolutely.
So there is a log of how your hours are being spent.
What we normally do is we have an extra large calendar on the wall, and in that calendar, we log in all the inspections, because sometimes we're inspecting out 2 weeks ahead of time. For instance, liquor licenses take almost a full month between the initial inspections, the follow-up letters, the follow-up inspections, and then the paperwork. And you guys need to have them by the beginning of December so you can do your job. So we're right in the middle of liquor license inspections. So when you go in and look at that calendar, you'll see all the different inspections on all the different days, whether it's meetings, no matter where I go, it's on that calendar.
Okay. So that's all the questions I have. I would like to make just a comment, though. Larry's been extremely helpful with the senior center project. He's given us a lot of great guidance, a lot of good, information. So I do appreciate, all the help that, we've gotten from Larry. He has done a good service to the town, in the senior center project.
Thank you.
Ken?
One comment that I do want to make, regardless of what the outcome of, this meeting is and whether we can come to an agreement, is that we, obviously, as you know, the board changes composition every year.
Yes.
This year will happen twice, that we will be having new people coming on. So we as a board, though we may say that, oh yeah, we're fine with this, that we can deal with this until your contract comes up in July. Just be aware that, come April or May, that what we decide on tonight obviously will not be, the town will not be bound to that beyond what this board decides that it's going to do. So I know with, so I guess any promises that, we can't really make promises tonight, we can agree to agree to the hours now, but to say that those will definitely 100% be in place until July 1st, I don't know, as if we don't have the authority to commit the town to that at this time either. So just so you know, so you're aware of whatever flexibility you may need with your other positions or.
In response to that, since I've been here in 2000, I think I've been through at least a half a dozen board changes, where all the faces have changed, and some people have stayed a little longer than other people, but yes, I've seen that happen constantly. So, thank you.
Anyone else? No one from the board?
Well,
Just 1 minute, Bill.
yeah, I'm having trouble with changing the hours back because of the consistency. And that's what I wanted to see happen when we hashed it out, when we talked about everyone's hours. It
Sure.
was to make it consistent so that everybody was on the same page. And people could get what they needed done. And I perfectly understand that you have to protect yourself and cover what you need to do, and I have not had any issues with job performance or anything of that nature. For me, it's a matter of consistency.
Well, one thing that kind of bothers me a little bit is, and I realize that in talking to Jeff, I didn't realize how far back these ideas came forward, but for the departments, when you guys met on that Tuesday, unfortunately I wasn't available, but it was voted on that Tuesday and implemented the following Monday. For myself, as a department head, that's very hard to just change to 5 hours. For a human being, it's difficult to do that. But I do understand what the board wanted to do. They wanted to get it implemented as quickly as possible. And so after talking to Jeff, I realized there's no real discussion of it. I either work the hours or I have to resign. But I don't have any choices in the matter.
You all set?
Yes.
Billy Harris.
Hi, I'm here to offer my perspective as a contractor. I get building permits in cities and towns all over the state for over 4 decades, and I can see how I get to compare the abilities of building departments all around, and I don't think people that are just here realize, but we have one of the best building inspectors in the state in our midst tonight, and I'm urging you to work with him and don't try to fix something that isn't broken. He's so accessible. It's a dream to be able to find Larry early in the morning. And Larry and Donna are very, very efficient, and they know what they're doing. They're a class act, and I believe it would be a tragedy if we lost them because we were so rigid that we had to make everything exactly the same. They took their vacations when the hours got cut back. They swapped. They made personal sacrifices so that office would be open. And we have a very knowledgeable, very level-headed, very professional building department right now. And I urge you to do whatever you can do to keep it the way it is.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Kirk?
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on what Bill says. I mean, there's a lot more to the building department than just, oh, the building's slow, so we can't be doing anything. The planning board relies on the building department from the zoning enforcement aspect of the laws. And keep in mind, we're a volunteer board. We do everything we can possibly do. We make absolutely nothing to be here, and that's why sometimes it's impossible to be here, because you're trying to make a living at the same time. But we relied on Larry's expertise as far as when somebody comes to town, depending on what type of business they want to run, as to where it falls within our bylaws. And for me to sit here tonight and not say anything and see Larry say, well, here's my resignation, goodbye, I, as chairman of that board, would take a chance on making the right decisions for the town before I would just give it to some haphazard, part-time, fill-in, we got somebody to do his job temporarily, building inspector. I wouldn't do it, because you need to know what you're doing. You need to know what you're doing, not only from a local standpoint, from a federal level as well. It's state, federal, and local bylaws that he needs to go through every single time somebody walks in and says, here's a set of plans, where do I comply? And we rely heavily on that office to do that for planning. So if you're gonna do anything at all, at least, I would say at least go the distance where the town has time to plan, not just shove it in their face, because it's not like we got the money, let's spend it. Jesus Christ, let's hold some of that money. If he doesn't want to work 5 hours, you should be thanking him, not forcing it down his throat. And keep in mind, not all departments moved up. Planning board, we have the same hours we did before the override. Nothing's changed. There's nobody knocking on the door here at 7 o'clock at night or whatever night it is you guys want to work late, Tuesdays or whatever. It's irrelevant. I understand Julie's, I understand what you're saying as far as the consistency is nice in all departments, but we're not there as a town. We're not a city. We don't have fully staffed every single board where here's the city hall's open, boom, the lights are on, everybody's there. You know, we're all over the place. pick somebody in this room and ask them which offices are open where and what hours right now. I bet you there's not one person in this room that even knows.
After what?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, the one thing that I ended up stressing to you last time, because I had looked at office hours and I gave you some information on 30 different communities. And the one thing that was really stands out is the consistency of the hours for all departments. No department was outside of the bounds, and that's really, when you see 30 communities and they have the same hours for all of their departments, that tells you something, that they have found that those hours work for them. As I stated, and I know the board made that decision, but most communities start at 8:30 in the morning. We're the only ones that start at 7 o'clock in the morning in this community. There's only one other community out of that 30, and they're all the same size communities, 7,000 to 8,000, which we fall right in the middle. That falls outside of the 8 o'clock hour, and that's Sterling. They start at 7:30. So I mean, we're an outlier if you want to look at it from that, as far as consistency, as far as that. But I think once you end up setting the hours, they have to be consistent for everybody to know that all your offices are open at the same time. They can't be open at different hours, different times, because it confuses folks, period, when they end up having to come to do business. It doesn't make any difference what department. So I mean, that's the consistent message I'm giving you, is that when we looked at that, it has to be consistent for all departments. If they can end up having something different, will end up causing a problem for most people.
Julie?
I just had, what are your hours in Templeton before it changed?
6:45 is when I'm in the office, and I leave the town at 10:45.
And that was Monday through Thursday?
Monday through Thursdays.
Okay.
I'm open to the public at 6 a.m. 6:45 allows me a few minutes to either take the messages off the phone or finish up a letter, whatever I'm in the middle of when I leave to go out on inspections. I go on inspections at 9 o'clock most days, 9:30 other days if I don't have the same amount. I try to keep the inspections to 3 a day, no more than that. If we get busy, sometimes I have to do 4, but I have to leave a little bit early to be able to do that 4th inspection.
Okay.
Excuse me, Larry, did you mean 5:45 or 6:45?
5:45, excuse me.
Okay. And what are your hours in the other communities where you
I work in Berlin. I open the office at 12:30 and I close the office at 2. I get there for 11:30 and do inspections there, and then I'll do inspections after 2. And then I open up in Hubbardston at 4 o'clock and I'm done at 6:30.
And is that Monday through Friday or Monday
No,
through
that's
Thursday?
only Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays.
So in both Berlin and Hubbardston are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday?
No, Berlin is Monday through Fridays.
Okay, Berlin is Monday through Fridays, and Hubbardston is
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Are you good, Julie?
Yes, I am, thank you.
Donna, and then
It's gonna be hard because I have laryngitis. But as far as consistency, our office is open the same hours as everybody else. When he leaves in the morning, I'm still there till 2 o'clock. I come back and work 5 to 7. And people don't have to see him right from between 5 and 7, because I'm there to help them as I am during the day anyhow. So they are consistent with everybody else.
hi.
Can you speak up, Donna?
I want to speak to the consistency. Our building department has defined consistency all the people that get permits know they can get Larry first thing in the morning. They know when Donna's there, and Donna's very efficient in getting the information processed and getting to Larry's head what needs to come out of his head, and she puts it on paper. We can't standardize and homogenize ourselves to be everything for all people. This building department is very consistent and has been for 13 years. I will go to the mat on that. And I can tell you, I'm not gonna mention towns, but there's a lot of towns around here where the only time you can get the building permit is night, and I've gone 3 weeks in a row at night and stood in a line outside the town hall, and the building inspector couldn't even process my application, never mind look at it. So, the towns that have efficient building departments have the ability to prosper, and I'm not gonna mention any names, but there's a lot of other towns and cities that it is a disaster to try to get anything done through the building department. And what happens is, people don't go there and do projects, or they do the projects and don't bother with the permitting. And either way is a disaster. I don't think anybody realizes what the building department we have, because if you don't have the ability to compare it, like I do, to what's around the block, you don't appreciate what you have until it's too late and it's gone.
First of all, we voted on November 18th. Back when we started discussing the override, and after the August 22nd joint town meeting, we held some informational town hall meetings type, just meet people, talk about, put information out. And in the midst of doing that, we had set November 1st as the time for, to inform employees in case the override failed. That's when the major cuts would happen, that's when, layoff notices would happen, and this and that. So on October, when the override passed, town employees wanted to know, and the taxpayers who were told that part of that money was going to be restore the hours. And even members of the board, we need to get this done. We can't wait until December, January, because we told the employees, we told the taxpayers, and even that night when we voted, there were some employees here that said, they wanted it done that night because they wanted their hours back, which affects many things, including their retirement and their paycheck, because they got a raise by getting their hours back. They got their money back. So when we voted to do that, there was discussion on when to do it, and it was the following week, because we had employees here, including the department head, several of them. We want to tell our employees, we want to tell the people, you say you're going to do this, don't drag your feet, get this done. Which is why we voted, it's why I voted yes to do it on the following week. We voted, gave the hours, we set the hours, give back to them, now, not wait till, 2 months down the road. Again, that's consistency, credibility, and so forth. My other question, kind of what Kirk alluded to, as a building inspector to work for communities, or if you just, was like a home inspector or something on a private business, you have to be licensed, trained for that.
Oh, absolutely.
So you just can't hire somebody off the street or some general contractor, say, hey, can you fill in the building inspector, the building department, and do this job because ours just quit. So if we had to have someone on per diem basis or this or that, we would have to look for a licensed, experienced individual.
Absolutely. I'll give you an example. In Hubbardston, when I was on vacation, I got a call on my cell phone from a solar company begging me to come back from vacation to sign the building permit because of a July 1st deadline imposed by National Grid. saying if you weren't shovel-ready on July 1st, your project would not be considered. They'd gone through all the effort, they'd gone through all the plans, they'd gone through all the meetings they had to go through. I couldn't come back. So what the town did in response to that is they got in touch with the city, the town of Holden, asked that inspector to come over. They hired him for one day to fill in as the alternate inspector, had him review the plans with the understanding that when I came back, if I disagreed, I can pull the permit, had him sign that permit so they could issue the permit. That's how they responded to that. As far as hiring a new inspector, yes, you have to be licensed and certified through the state.
We're gonna have to put you on hold. We have to do this tax classification here, and it should just take a few minutes,
Okay.
hopefully. So 7 PM, there's a tax classification hearing. This is where we discuss and vote whether to have tax classes, a tax rate for residential, for business, this or that. So I would entertain a motion to go into the hearing, and then we'll discuss it and have a vote on it.
I make a motion that we begin the tax classification hearing.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Yes. All right,
Excuse me, before, are you done with that?
no.
Oh, all right.
Just open the
No,
hearing.
no, that's just to go into the
I was
hearing.
gonna say
It's
that.
it's one of them municipal rule things you gotta do, formalities. Gotta vote to do it. Now we gotta talk about what we just motioned,
Thanks.
and then
All right.
discuss it, and hopefully, then we'll be done.
All right.
So, what the hearing entails is to have a tax rate of whatever for residential, commercial, etc. And I believe in the past, it's always been a single tax rate, and I will confirm that with the deputy assessor, Luann, sitting there.
My board's recommending across the board, single flat rate again this year.
For the niceties, that would be called a unitary tax classification rate.
You just made that up.
A rate of 1.000.
Could be, John. So the Board of Assessors voted and recommends the single tax rate.
That's true.
That's just for the record.
Do you want that?
Yeah, two of my three assessors are here, and I did talk to Fred this evening, he couldn't make it in, so they're all in agreement.
I believe your board members if they say they voted. So,
I will make a motion that a single tax rate classification be adopted with a tax rate factor of 1, and that there be no residential exemption, no commercial exemption, and no open space discount.
Second.
motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
A question of the assessors, when you went through that, did you look at other communities as to how they assess those four different, open space, et cetera?
Yeah.
What was the reasoning behind, I'd like to know some of the reasoning behind that, John.
Well, one answer to that question is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it
Thank
has treated us well for as long as I can remember. And I go back to Lester Bees and company. But a single tax rate has done us well. Once this vote is passed or rejected, I would like to have a moment of time to explain something beyond this discussion. But as far as other communities go, most of the communities of our size that I know of are single tax rates because they don't have enough industry to milk the industry any more than they do the taxpayer, the residential
Well,
taxpayer.
I'm particularly talking about open space, John, is that they could end up, because that would encourage, they could end up having that as open space per se, and not end up going, I mean, especially for a smaller community like this.
I don't know the answer to to that question about open space in other communities.
Yep.
I can't answer that. I can find out.
Can I ask one question?
That's what
Yeah.
you want.
The language that says there will be no residential exemption, no commercial exemption, by that language, you know, I'm definitely for this. The one tax rate is definitely correct, the right thing for us to do. Just a thought process here, I'm not, suggesting that we do or we don't, but, one of the things that we need to try to do is to bring business into town.
That was gonna be my discussion as soon as you get through with this vote.
Okay, so my question is, by having this language in here, no residential exemption, no commercial exemption, we could not offer a business some sort of temporary 1-year, 2-year tax break?
I believe the selectmen can.
We can
Even with
typically-
this
I do
language.
not have the legal authority to say that, but I believe the selectmen can offer, in lieu of, correct me.
Tax increment financing, TIF.
Thank you, TIF.
So even with this
Even
language,
with
we
that
still have
verb-
that option?
Even with that verbiage,
Okay,
you can do that.
that's what my question was then.
Which is a different name for what state and federal government call tax credits.
Yeah.
You can reduce the tax burden on a business for a specified period of time. I know there's a limit, I don't have an answer to what that is, I think it's 5 years, it might be 10, but it's a limited time, and a certain percentage of their tax. And you can grant it, it has to be a contract, and they must fulfill their part of the contract, whether it's to hire a certain number of employees or, put a certain number of dollars of investment into real estate or whatever the terms and conditions are.
That can be negotiated with the selectmen and the company.
It's really a contract, I think it's a.
Yes, it is.
It's the effect of a legal contract.
Good.
All right. Everybody good? All right. Julie?
Yes. Oh, were you gonna explain more? or-
After our vote.
Oh, okay, yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And yes. And the only thing I would say on the single tax rate is with the number of small businesses that we have in town that are locally owned, there's no reason to punish them by having a higher commercial tax rate. That's my
I would
personal
like,
opinion.
I would like to answer that by saying, and to you too, and to everybody else. For all the years that I was on the board, back 15 or 20 years ago, I came to this classification hearing and fussed about, we should have a lower tax rate for the businesses in town, especially the new ones coming in, because that would encourage them. Every coordinator has looked at me with knives in their eyes because of all the things they don't want to do, of course, is to reduce the base, but I do believe that if you give the local industry and local businesses an opportunity, they will spend the money that they save on taxes right here in town, hiring people and putting out more product. So that's where I'm coming from. I did vote with the rest of the board for a single tax rate.
Thank you. All right. Would entertain a motion to close this hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And yes. And the tax hearing is closed, and we will go back to Larry.
I have one more brief statement that actually comes from what you were talking about, how the people that came wanted their increases right away, they wanted their hours right away. I made it known in January to Will and to Jeff in my office discussing budget for the fiscal year that I did not want that 5 hours. That was 10 months before this all happened, and I felt that by telling these two people that I didn't have to tell anybody else, there it is. But apparently that didn't hold any weight or any water. I don't know whether I should have followed that up in writing, but I do understand them wanting to fill those hours right away, because that's exactly what I did when my hours got cut. The very next day, I was in front of another board asking them to increase my hours, which they did. So I do understand what you're talking about.
Just one more little comment. We've been concerned about the fact that we're losing good employees. It's primarily because of wages, or in this example, it's not really because of wages, it's because of hours. But again, I think, Larry's one of those folks that falls into, the good employee category. And the fact that the office is open, because Donna, has agreed to work the late night, so the office is open, so we have that consistency with the other departments. I think we need to, consider, what we potentially lose, if we stay hard and fast on this.
Ken?
I just wanted to say also that while I understand the desire to have equality across all town departments, in particular, in regards to fairness to town employees, I do understand that the building inspector's position is unique in that by having the early office hours, that's when a lot of contractors and professionals are up early doing that kind of work, whereas they might not want to come in at 8 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night. So I definitely can understand, and because you do have to go out into the community, you're not sitting at a desk. Not that I'm begrudging sitting at a desk, that's what I do all day, but that there are special qualifications that are unique to your position that I could understand approving a modification of hours, as long as the needs of the taxpayers are being met.
Yep. Bev? Then.
The Fernald School's doing a lot of building. I understand that they've started. Is that your jurisdiction?
No, that's the state.
That's the state, so
Yeah.
you don't have to do that.
I don't do that, yeah.
Okay.
The state inspector does.
Well, I'd rather not pay you for 5 hours if you don't want to be there than pay you and not have you there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because as long as what the guys need to get their jobs done is covered, and from what I've heard, Donna does a very good job
She does.
of making things work there. I think that sometimes you can't be consistent 100%. But I'd rather not pay you if you're not gonna be there. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Go get your money someplace else. We can give 5 hours to the fire chief over here.
Thank you. Just as an observer
Yes.
and a bystander in this,
Oh.
we got two people in this room who either their board or their livelihood is in much more of a percentage due to the meeting of this man than the other 15 of us are. I mean, we may need a pool or a deck if we have to put it off for a week because, he either wasn't there or he was busy doing something else. I think that's one thing. These people make a living and they run their boards off of it. It was already mentioned once that if it's not fixed, don't break it. I don't think it's broken, so let's not fix it. I don't think that the town is gonna gather muskets and pitchforks and come to the town hall to complain because we didn't give them the 5 hours back.
They gather their muskets, I hope they have their permit.
Through the boards, to Larry's thing about communicating that he was not available on Fridays for that 5 hours. The reason I didn't end up saying anything when the board said increase the hours was the fact that we knew that Friday was out. That didn't necessarily mean that we knew that you couldn't take on more hours during the other 4 days. So I mean, I want to make that clear that
I
that's.
appreciate that, yeah.
I mean, that's, make sure that the communications is, that you can't take on hours, period. We understood it as Fridays were out, and the board didn't say anything about Fridays.
Yes, yes.
Or else I would have spoke up. If they had said Fridays, then I would have said, your building inspector has already made it clear.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? All right, I guess I would entertain a motion or vote, to set the building inspector's hours, at 05:45, excuse me, to 10:45, Monday through Thursday. And the assistant's hours will stay what they are, 7 to 2, 5 to 7 on Tuesdays, I believe.
Jeff, is there a timesheet that's made out?
There is, but if we get a motion in a second, then we'll have discussion, okay?
Okay, I would so move that motion, exactly as you read it.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
There's a timesheet
Hey.
made out, that where he works and stuff.
There is a timesheet.
Was there a discussion a month ago about a bill from Hubbardston that the town of Hubbardston wanted the town to pay?
There was an item that came through the town warrant, and it was brought to attention, and it was not paid. It was a bill for, I think it was $10 for the printing of business cards for a building inspector for the town of Hubbardston. And that was, saw it was going through the warrant, and it was pulled, and it was taken care of, was not paid. Because I for one don't believe the taxpayers of Templeton should be paying any of the town's bills, as I don't think any other town should pay Templeton's bills. It's just the way it should be.
How did the bill come from? Where did the bill come from?
It's in the warrant from the building department.
Can I just clarify that? No.
Yes, Donna.
I put the order into Monty Tech for the cards. I did it over the email. I used the town of Templeton. It was when they made out the order in Monty Tech, they said to me, they made the mistake. They're the ones who put on Hubbardston. I didn't look at it. I just submitted it. It was my error for not proofing the bill when it came in. I took care of it. So it's a dead issue.
Thank you.
They submitted a bill.
Did everybody hear it, Donna?
No, just speak up.
They corrected the bill.
He did, oh, wait a minute, wrong department.
She doesn't pay any attention.
All right, another jovial night here at 690. If you want excitement, you gotta go to the planning board meeting.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Julie?
I'm gonna abstain.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So, your hours will be 05:45 to 10:45. Please communicate to Holly to take the temporary off, and
make it permanent.
change that so it reads those hours. Okay. And that is that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate all the support. Thank you.
20 hours.
And Donna, go home and don't talk.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right, the next item on the
She's
agenda
asking for $450
are the
waiver
duties
permit.
of the town
I'll send that to the
coordinator.
board, you can vote that.
This has been kicked around a number of times by this board. I believe it's been town administrator or greater duties for a town coordinator. Has been, even gone before a town meeting. It came up recently at a meeting of the board. It was an executive session. I can't talk about what it was, but that came up that due to the Board of Selectmen being basically a part-time job where the majority of the members, like many other boards, people have jobs and they have, it's hard to commit the full-time nitty-gritty detail that is required today, even in a small town of Templeton. There's just so many rules and regulations and things that come around and issues that have to be dealt with that could and should be dealt with daily, or at least in an expedient manner, rather than waiting for a couple of weeks over the next Board of Selectmen's meeting, which sometimes we actually find out in detail at the meeting, and then, you know, we kick it around, some of us, we hear it in details and stuff for the first time at the meeting, and then a lot of times it gets carried over to the second meeting, which means some things that are important that should and could be handled expediently gets put off for a couple of weeks. And then, in some cases, that leads to issues getting bigger than they should or need to be. We have, the Board of Selectmen have duties and authority by Mass General Law, by our bylaws, a personnel bylaw, et cetera, to vote to give the coordinator duties and responsibilities, duties and authority. As anyone ever in the military, you hear it all the time, you can delegate authority but not responsibility. If we can give the authority to the town coordinator to take care of personnel, to take care of purchasing, to take care of this, that. If it comes to firing somebody, he may recommend it, he may say, you know, this is what I've seen, this employee is blah, blah, blah. However, the ultimate responsibility would still fall on the Board of Selectmen. It would just be, we delegate the authority to handle the day-to-day business, which is, a lot is in the intention of the town coordinator or town administrator, and greater authority with a town manager. As a little history, back in 1998, in the town report of the annual town meeting of May 1998, Article 11, to see if the town will vote to adopt General Law, Chapter 41, Section 23C, to create the position of Executive Secretary, herein entitled Town Coordinator, to perform town administrative duties under the supervision and control of the Board of Selectmen, or to take any other action relative thereto. And that was passed 49 yes and 46 no. So it was a squeaker, but it did pass. In Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 23C, No person shall be authorized by vote of a town to act on behalf of the Board of Selectmen unless the vote provides that such person shall be appointed and may be removed by said board. The other Mass General Law, it's Chapter 41, but it's Section 23A, is, and I believe incorrectly, it's stated in the personnel policy that the town coordinator was created under 23A. And just for clarity's sake, I'll read it. Section 23A, a town may by vote or by law authorize and empower the selectmen to appoint an executive secretary or town administrator who may be appointed by them for a term of 1 or 3 years and to remove him, her, at their discretion. An executive secretary or town administrator appointed under the provisions of this section shall be sworn to the faithful performance of his duties. During the time that he holds office, he shall hold no elective town office, but he may be appointed by the selectmen or with their approval by any other town officer, board, committee, or commission to any other town office or position consistent with his office. He shall receive such aggregate compensation not exceeding the amount appropriated therefor as the selectmen may determine. He shall act by and for the selectmen in any manner which they may assign to him relating to the administration of the affairs of the town or any town office or department under their supervision and control, or with the approval of the selectmen, may perform such other duties as may be requested of him by any other town officer, board, committee, or commission. And that's the two different wordings of sections of the Chapter 41, the officers, employees of cities, towns, and districts. And one thing where we could make progress and probably take care of a lot of day-to-day things. In the personnel bylaw, it has the personnel administrator, and it says the personnel administrator shall have the following duties: administer all functions specified in this bylaw, personnel policies promulgated by Section 5. Provide advice and assistance to Board of Selectmen and the Personnel Board, which we are now one and the same. Supervisory personnel employees in all aspects of personnel management specified by this bylaw. Recommend to the Board of Selectmen such changes in this bylaw and the town's personnel policies as may be considered necessary as conditions change. Supervise, maintain, centralize,